view of a lack of a self nature. And so we're starting off and we're saying, okay, once we understand that we establish things simply through mental images, what's the risk, according to this school, of further analysis?
It's not effective in helping your practice, not helping you get upset.
Kind of. Oops, I should let other people try.
It's a rabbit hole if you never get to multiple images.
Right, it's a useless rabbit hole, that's for sure. We spend all of our time in analysis and not doing the things we should do and avoiding doing those things that we should not do. And Jenny Lama says, deceptive reality works just perfectly fine. We don't have to get into the fine details. Just act with wisdom. So what's the other kind of risk relative to understanding mental images? And this is closer to what Ori was talking about. So it's not enough to just know how to talk about how things are a mental image. We have to elicit total understanding from the depths of our hearts in relation to our own mind stream. Then we understand. Otherwise, we're merely parroting words. So now we're preparing ourselves to dive into proofs for the lack of self-nature in the consequence branch. And Chöni Lama presents two divisions of self that we must learn to distinguish. You guys remember this?
The self we deny and the result of the label.
The self we deny and the conventional self. That's one
That's cool.
distinction. What's the second one?
Coming from seats.
Of person.
Has to do with something with Plenke.
The inborn tendency to hold to itself and the learned tendency to hold to itself.
Nope. Both have to do with Plenke.
To think about self and grasping.
To think, the inborn tendency to think me, and the inborn tendency to hold to an I.
Yeah.
So there's some distinction there, and hopefully we'll get some clarity about exactly what that distinction is. Okay, on to the sexy Tibetan words.
Yeah.
I suppose there is no English equivalent to kunsok chache minua.
There's not.
I suppose.
You
Why
do?
you say me wrong?
Why would you think that? We're a translator group.
Deceptive something, okay.
Very good.
Deceptive and unerring.
And unerring, good. And what's the middle part?
Object, which is
No.
or someone that does.
Unerringly see something. Unerringly.
No.
No. Chachi. Did it.
In a deceptive sense, things work perfectly.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Cool. Who brought this bad stuff?
They're actually amazing.
What are they?
They're from Austrian Airlines. They're chocolate.
Not that good.
Chocolate almond thing.
Gonna make my students stupid in an hour.
Yes.
You don't have to sell it.
Like chocolate drink.
They do.
You're not that
That one's got no sugar.
Does anyone recall what tadao means?
Ta-da.
Padun.
Tadun.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry. Tadun. Don't look at that, don't look at that.
And yet.
And yet.
And yeah, it's gone up, okay.
Ta-tu.
What was the context?
And yet they
We were
work.
talking about how at the beginning you said the risk is don't spend a lot of detail. Just be happy with the understanding that things come from mental images, and yet you have to apply it to your own mind.
Actually, it's different. Okay, so dadung means, but if you continue. Dadung means if you continue. If you keep on, it means if you keep on digging, you won't reach anything.
Oh.
I was comparing those two different things. Like
Yeah.
risk is one way one way and the other way.
Yeah, what it means is if you keep digging, if you keep on. So datung means to keep on. If you keep on digging, you'll get in trouble or you won't find anything. Be satisfied that it's a creation of. Don't go
Okay,
into the
I'll
parts.
show
Don't
you, but
examine the parts.
It's in the next. It's in the next
Yeah.
stanza where we're talking about. You have to
Yeah.
look at your own mind stream.
Yeah. Be satisfied with
Okay.
a construct, and don't go deeper into the construct to the parts because you'll lose the thing. That's what he said, I think. Yeah. That's a datung. Datung means if you keep digging. If you don't let it go, datung. It means if still. If you still keep digging. Anyway, it's an idiom.
And I don't know if you can see that, but it's not sangwa.
Complete me.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good.
I saw it.
Uh-oh. You complete me.
Can I just express gratitude for your format? Because people in the back can actually see it. Thank
Oh,
you.
cool. Good.
Thanks for the facts.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, back to
It
you.
wasn't so.
Okay, Ashley, you can have.
All right, I'm trying to.
I didn't know James Monroe was here.
Okay.
Monroe.
I thought it was Hamilton.
Now you can ask Cougar. What?
I think we're here. Am I right?
Microphone, mic.
Oh, sorry. We were gonna discuss how the person has no self nature. And we were going to use two classic proofs. One is called neither one nor more than one. And one is called the 7-part proof. And inside the neither one nor many proof, we were going to examine 4 parts of the proof. One is what we deny, gakcha. One is kyabar, which means, look, if it exists, it has to be one or more than one. Then we're going to show that it can't be a self-existent singular. And then we're going to show that it can't be a self-existent plural. And we finished the gakcha description. And we finished the necessity of something. If it exists, it must be one or more than one. And now we're moving on to why it cannot be a self-existent one. Okay, here we go. Number.
Sumpani. E pupo. Chik yimpala rekte. Nupa. Ba.
Yeah, now we would have preferred if it was like one apple or more than one apple. But he's getting into one in the sense of if it's A, then it's B. If it's a Chevrolet, it's a car. And I've never seen the one in many proof described this way. Okay, so it's a little complicated. He made it more complicated. Okay, so he's not talking about one apple or more than one apple. He's talking about one Chevrolet one with car or Chevrolet separate from car in which there's 2 things. You see what I mean? So I don't know where he's going, but I've never seen it presented this way. Okay.
Be that, I don't know, the consequence school is so much.
It could. I mean, let's flow with it. But I'm just saying he's making it harder for us. So, Rikpe Nupa Bop means logical problems ensue. Okay. Bop here means fall, right? But it means we incur logical problems if the self is one with the heaps, you see, literally. But don't forget that when we get into this territory of dung chik, okay, this dung chik, I prefer that you say,
To be one is to be the other.
yeah, to be one is to be the other. So this is a case where, in my opinion, to translate it correctly, you have to add a lot of words. To be the self is to be the heaps, okay? To be Michael is to be Michael's body and mind, okay? That's one choice. And that for him is one. In the argument, that things must be one or many. But that's a completely different kind of one than anything we've seen before. Okay? Normally they will say, if something exists from its own side without, if the husband in the kitchen, who's not my fault, exists, he must be one husband or two. Okay? Like, that's the logic. He must be one husband or more than one husband. So first you go to the one and you say, he's not one husband who exists from his own side. Then obviously he cannot be two, because if you don't have one, you can't have two. And that's the usual argument. But this person, this Choni Lama, is saying logical problems ensue, but we get logical problems falling down like rain if Michael, if to be Michael, that's how we have to say it. If to be Michael is to be his body and mind.
So Te is the self here?
Yeah, doc. Yeah, doc. So there should have been a doc up here somewhere. Yeah. It's a good question. Yeah. So Michael is not such that to be Michael is to be Michael's body and mind. And there's an extreme in his text, okay? The Hindus and Christian, really, in some sense, the idea of a soul, that there's a separate Michael. And this is the one your mom told you when I was young. You know, my mom said, "Mom, what if I die? What happens to me?" She says, "Well, your body dies, your mind dies, but your soul goes on." So that would be independent of body and mind. That would be one which is to be that Michael is not to be your body and mind. You see what I mean? So that's kind of a real extreme one where Michael's floating around separate from Michael's body. If Michael's body and mind die, then Michael still has some existence and still moving around and like that. So that's one very extreme. And we had it in 20 schools of your discussion. And they were the eternalists, right? And so that's kind of what we're talking about here, okay? To be Michael, to be Michael's body and mind. Is there a Michael that's left over if you kill the body and mind? Okay.
Well, that's going to be more number.
That's the next one. Yeah. This one is not. Okay. Okay. Number 4.
시반이 대당 타대당 모어 타대이나 그렇게
Yeah. He said either separate or not such that to be one is not such that to be one is not to be the other. See, he used 2 different meanings of tade. He said tam. Tam means or. So I'm talking separate or such that to be one is not to be the other. Okay. He has 2 meanings of separate. He says you can take separate to be separate entities, or you can take separate as to be essentially separate, meaning to be one is not to be the other. And they're different. And that's why we're struggling with the translation. And that's why I never want to see separate essence or separate entity or something like that. It's not what it means. To be a Chevrolet is to be a car. But to be a Chevrolet is not to be a kind of horse or something like that. You see what I mean? Those are tade. Okay, cool. By the way, I mean, the idea of a soul does exist in Buddhism. Your mind is endless, no beginning, no end, cannot be destroyed, will never be destroyed. Your identity continues. And that's the one that goes to heaven or doesn't go to heaven, and, you know, because that's... So there is what you would think of as a soul, but it's just identified as your mind stream, which cannot be destroyed. And you are eternal, and in time, that eternal self will go to a paradise. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Dear Chen, do sinsu ni
Mhm.
le, dang poni, nga Chen, rang ki pong po teng do rang shin ki ma jute, de teng to te dang rang shin ki chik tang rang shin ki tade kang duong ma jute cheer. Fair enough. Su nyen shinu.
Yeah, good. So we have cast it physically on the page. We cast it in debate format. And I'd like you guys to do that with your texts. Okay? And sometimes it's artificial. He just wants it to sound like a debate book, like Sugang's text. The whole gosh darn thing is a debate text, you know, and Adam's also. But this is a pretty classic proof. What's confusing to me, and maybe it's going to be clarified, is he starts out saying there's two ways you can take the chichen. Yeah, the subject of the debate. Okay, there's two ways you can take the subject of the debate. His first chichen is nga. I don't know what his second chichen is. Well, it's the same. So I don't know what his point. This is where you just keep going and hope it's clarified. Okay. Exactly. Hope the students get distracted. Okay. So literally the first sentence here says you can take the subject of the debate in two different ways. Why, how, what, I don't know. Here's the first. Ngachichen. Yeah, like take Michael or take Nick or take Utpala. Okay. Take me. Rangi Pumba Tengdu Rangshiki Madupte.
Is not established as resting upon his heaps?
Yeah, I would say something like, I'm tempted to use in, you know. Michael does not exist through any nature of his own in his body and mind. Okay, or yeah, literally the Tibetan says on top of. But I'd say something like, you cannot find a Michael that exists in his body and mind by nature. By nature, meaning not coming from your seats. Okay, you cannot find.
We were talking about 10 earlier as in relation to.
You can say that. That's okay. But, you know, make it simple. Strive for simplicity. Okay. If you really translate this literally, you're going to lose everybody. You know, does not exist through its nature on top of the heaps of the stuff. You know, you're gonna make it Dharma gibberish.
It doesn't exist through its nature within, or is it like that it's never nature?
Let's look at the next sentence, and it's going to clarify that question. Okay, here we go. Why is the Michael not in the body and mind? By nature. Okay, automatically. Okay, because, go ahead.
It's not established separately.
By the way, for dupe, you can just say is, you see, past tense of, okay, he does not exist either, Kangduang, either as cheek.
One with or separate from.
One or separate.
Yeah, from what?
Heaps.
Yeah, his body and mind, okay? Like, if you want to make it accessible to a foreigner, here's a place where you can play with body and mind. If it's not essential that there's 5 heaps, which is already, I like to think of a reader reading your text as a Olympic runner running, what do you call hurdle? Jumping over hurdles, and every time you can just knock one down, you make their life easier. If there's too many hurdles in one sentence, you will lose the reader. They will stop reading the book. So the goal is to knock down those hurdles, you know. So I would say, I'm just talking about Pumbo, right? Like maybe just to remove that hurdle, because not many of your readers are gonna have the right idea when you say 5 heaps. Because 5 heaps means your body and mind. So maybe you want to just say body and mind. And then you'll get in trouble with the Tibetan scholars who say that it says Pumbo. And you'll say, yeah, but my audience didn't grow up with Pumbo. They grew up with body and mind. And it's exactly the same thing. Okay, yeah. You could footnote it, but then that's another obstacle. You see, you want to spare people. You want to remove obstacles to the free access to the meaning. That's translation. Yeah, maybe the first time, yeah, I would say that. The first time you replace heaps with body and mind. Now there's texts like Stanley where it's important that there's 5. It's important that you don't say body and mind. So okay. So I leave it up to you guys. But what I'm trying to impress on you is, as a translator, try to remove obstacles to your reader, because if there's too many, they'll put the book down, and they won't put it down because they're angry. They'll put it down because you fatigued them, and they just can't. Netflix is a lot easier than philosophy, so you're gonna lose them if you too many foreign words, too many weird ideas. Try to streamline your text without corrupting the meaning. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so Michael doesn't exist in his body and mind either as the same thing or as a separate thing. Something like that. Okay. And that's Chiktuja. That's neither one nor many. So many here means as a different thing. He wants it to go that way. He wants it to go that way. Okay? All right. Perna? Is?
It's like
A reflection.
A reflection in a mirror. Now, when you get to these reflection in a mirror metaphors, you gotta know the difference between reflection and the image standing in front of the mirror.
Right.
What's the word for image standing in front of the mirror? I mean, I don't remember. I'm hoping you remember. Sugnyan is the reflection.
Okay.
And what's the thing in front of the mirror?
Yes.
I don't remember. That has a specific word. There's a specific word. But okay, let's skip it for now, because I can't remember either. But be careful that you got the right one. Okay, be careful that you got the right one. One is false, one is real. Chashin, you're right. How'd you find that? You're so smart. Say Chashin. That's the real person standing in front of the mirror. That exists. And then the reflection in the mirror of the person's face is fake. It's an illusion, right? And a baby, you hold a baby up to a mirror. You got to experiment, okay? You got all these chances to use this baby for something useful. Stick them in front of the mirror and see if they try to touch themselves. Someone's moving and they try to touch the other baby and they don't realize it's themselves. Okay, so then that's the real meaning of Sugnyan. It's an illusion. Only a baby falls for it. Adults are like, oh, that's okay. So reflection always means illusion, and you got to make sure you don't have chishin, because that's real. That's the face in front of the mirror. That's the one you're shaving. Okay, if you're a guy. All right. Then somebody says makya. Okay, by the way, this is a real classic proof. There's a chechen, there's a drupje che, the quality you're trying to prove about the subject. The subject is me. We're trying to prove that it doesn't exist in my body and mind by nature. Okay? So that's the quality we're trying to prove about. Then we have the tak, which is the reason. Oh, because it doesn't exist in the body and mind as the body and mind, nor separate from the body and mind. Okay, one or many. Okay, and then we have the tumbe yandak.
Classical example.
Yeah, the classical. Literally, it's tun. There's another tun. It means it combines two qualities harmoniously. The one you're trying to prove and the one you stated in your reason. Yeah, it's called Tumpe Yanda. Yeah. What's the classical one for Dachichen? Dachichen mitate chepichir perna.
Oh, sound.
Pumpashin. Like a water pitcher. Okay. Take sound. It's changing. Because it's made. It's like water pitcher. Okay. And why water pitcher?
Because it was sitting there.
It was sitting there on the table when they were when they were teaching in an ancient Indian room. So okay, it's not that they Kailash, right? Kailasha, water base. Okay. Kalasha.
You said Pupa Shin? Shin?
Perna Bumbashin.
Shin.
Shindu, like yeah. Okay, so this is a beautiful, classic 4-part Buddhist syllogism. Okay, sometimes they leave out the 4th one. I just wanted to point out he had all 4. Okay, and so here we go. Oh, so kyup means if I number these 1, 2, 3, 4, the parts of a syllogism. What does makyup mean?
Makyup means 3 doesn't prove 2.
Right. Just because 3 doesn't prove 2. Okay. Somebody says, just because Michael is not in his body and mind, either as it or as something separate, doesn't prove he's not in his body and mind.
We could say a thing could be
Okay. He says makyup. Yeah. Yeah. Just because you're 3 doesn't mean you're 2. Okay. He says. The other guy says. And we say, kyup.
Yeah, there is privation.
Yeah, every time 3 is true, every time Michael doesn't exist in his body and mind, either as the body and mind or as something separate from the body and mind, he's not in his body and mind. Kyup. It's always the case, okay? Which is kind of the kyup we were talking about in the first place. If Michael's in his body and mind, he either has to be the same as the body and mind, or he has to be separate from the body and mind, one or many.
2 of us.
Okay, yeah, got it? Yeah. Here we go, kyupte. Yeah, stretch this out for me. Ki drumna. Excuse me, let me interrupt you for 1 second, because Chunzon will be happy with me, which is one of my goals in life. Okay. Okay, she's way back there. Okay, Rangshinki drumna.
Rangshinki chikang tade kang rundu gube chute. Yena chikang duma kang rundu gube chute. Chikang duma ning ngel.
This is a beautiful, I mean, this nails it down. If you understand it, it really nails it down. Okay, kyapte. If 3, must be 2. If Michael is not either the same as his body and mind or separate from his body and mind, then he's not related to his body and mind self-existently. By nature, okay, by nature. And here we have the by nature. Rangshinki drubna. If something existed by nature, what's it mean in the kitchen? Yeah, if the husband could be yelling at you and you never yelled at someone else. That's called a husband who exists by nature, and it's impossible. That's a self-existent husband, okay? By his very nature, he's yelling at you, and you did not yell at your kids in the past, okay? Or your boss, or your mom, or... Okay, so if something existed by its own nature, the husband in the kitchen, then he would have to either be one husband who exists by his own nature, or he'd have to be 2 separate husbands who exist by their own nature. Okay, got it? That's logical. Why? Because if something exists, it's either got to be 1 or more than 1. What's more than 1? A pair of shoes. Okay, all right, or a bunch of bananas. Okay, so if something exists, it's got to be singular, or it's got to be not more than single. Okay, well, why? And here's a very deep sentence. This one is crucial, okay? Things gotta be 1 or more than 1, because 1 and many are munga.
They're necessary.
And be careful.
Mutually exclusive, yeah.
Yeah.
All there is?
Yeah, they're a comprehensive mutual inclusion, meaning there's nothing that exists outside of those 2. So big contradiction means changing and unchanging. And there's nothing else in the universe. You see what I mean? Physical or not physical. These are called, so here you kind of got to add a word in English, a comprehensive direct contradiction, meaning it covers everything. You see what I mean? Because there are direct contradictions which don't cover everything. Okay. physical and mental.
Right.
They're contradiction, but they don't cover everything. You see? Yeah, good luck. Up to you. But I'm just saying, don't translate this as direct contradiction. It's not enough. Physical and mental are direct contradiction, but they don't cover all existing things. One or more than one, they're contradictory and they include everything.
They're contradictory things which include all.
Yeah. I would say a comprehensive direct contradiction. It's not, you make up a word.
Nothing exists
Yeah, what
outside of
about
these
zero?
I like it. God bless you. Yeah. They are contradictory in a way which covers all things or something like that. Okay. But you gotta say something like that or this argument doesn't make sense. Okay. And I've been struggling with that. Sometimes I forgot to add comprehensive and then I went back over the manuscript later and I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Go ahead. Okay, cool. We've identified the parts of a classical syllogism, and you have to be familiar with that if you're going to swim through Buddhist scriptures. You got to know logic. You got to know syllogisms. Here's the subject under consideration, Chuchen. Here's the quality we're trying to prove about it, which the other guy doesn't acknowledge yet. He hasn't recognized it yet. Here's the quality that the guy agrees it has.
Okay.
And he hasn't recognized yet the kaba, which means if it has that quality, it must have the quality we say it has, okay? But there's another relationship here, which is between 1 and 3. Okay? Yeah. Which supposedly the opponent has already always accepted. Okay, let's go to the Japanese. Let's take the Japanese restaurant. We should eat there tonight because you like Japanese food. That assumes your wife agrees that.
She's always liked Japanese food.
Yeah. Yeah, well, basically that the restaurant has Japanese food. Okay, so 1 must be 3. 1 must be 3. So that's called chokchu. Chokchu. And in fact, the opening line of Pramana Vartika is Chokchu Deche Kyabai. Very famous. Yeah. Difficult, super difficult. Okay.
Scared, but excited.
Yeah, might as well. What the hell? You might end up, before you pass from this world, you might as well translate the worst thing. Okay, I'm up for it, okay? I'm just saying. It'd be a nice tribute to Geshe Yeshe Wangchu. Yeah. Anyway, Chokchu Drupala Ni. So we're going to prove that 1 is 3. Chokchu, okay? Which means the relationship between the subject and the quality which the opponent already agrees applies to the subject, which is the 3rd statement of the 4. What's the 4th statement of the 4? Yeah, the example. The example.
What does it mean? In 2 ways, in 2 parts?
Yeah, he's saying, I'm going to prove the relationship between 1 and 3, which is one of the tsulsum, right? Definition of a good reason. I'm going to prove it in 2 different parts. Here's the dumbo, and here's the nipa down here. He wants the 2-step confirmation of the first of the 3 relationships, which is called chokchu. What are the 3 relationships? Chokchu,
1 and 3.
J-kyap, Do-kyap. Okay, all syllogisms must have 3 relationships hold. 1 is 3. If 3,
Then
2. If not 2,
then
not 3. Okay? Is there any possible case where if 3, 2, but not 2, not 3?
Ukrainians come up with one?
This is the Ukrainian theory. We're still confirming it. Those Ukrainians. After 2,000 years, the Ukrainians redesigned Buddhist logic. Okay. All right. So 2 parts to prove that 1 is 3. Here's the first. Go ahead. Ngachi-chin.
Consider me.
Yeah.
It isn't 1. It isn't as 1 with
To be it.
the part. To be
to be me is not to be by nature my body and mind. To be me is not to automatically be my body and mind. So, by the way, the two halves of the Chokchur, one, we're going to prove it's not one. Secondly, we're going to prove it's not many.
Two separate debates.
Yeah, these are the two 1 plus 3s. First, we show how it's not the same as my body and mind. Michael is not the same as my body and mind. And then we're going to prove that Michael is not separate from my body and mind. Okay.
We're essentially responding to Damadru.
Yeah. So here we go. Take me, take Michael. He does not automatically apply to his body and mind because he dedan chameki chiktu madubecher. Now, your text, I've taught your text many, many times since we went through it. Your text, when it got into parts, partless atoms, it was really treating why things can't be one. And I've used it countless times since then, because your text had the most elegant survey of all the possible ones in the universe. Physical, mental, neither physical nor mental, permanent, unchanging, emptiness, space. He covered all of them. Time, he showed why they had parts. Why they had to have parts, and why space has to have parts, why time has to have parts, why emptiness has to have parts. And it was I've used it countless times since we went through it. So this comes back to that. He's calling back to that. Chameki chik, it is not a one with no parts. It is not a one with no parts. Now he's kind of sliding back into one, and not one with. Okay? He's kind of greasy. He keeps, it's like, nice to have you guys here. Please come back.
The first one though, like it's not.
Yeah, he's not one and the same as his body and mind.
Yeah, right.
By nature, because he's not one with body and mind in a way where they don't have parts.
Yeah, he kind of.
Okay, he slid from one to the other. Okay.
It's not like a thing that like has parts can't be one, can't be.
That's kind of what he's saying, you know. Yeah, if it has parts, if they have parts,
It can't be a thing.
it can't be the body and mind.
Can't be.
If Michael has parts, he can't be the body and mind.
Isn't that the classic cheap to go?
Yeah, I mean he's sliding back and forth.
We've never seen it.
Okay.
And we're in,
This is the done mountain.
but we've already proven that point.
Classic in my mind.
And this is
Which one?
We already proved the point that it has
this is
pervasive.
the first I've ever seen.
What are we in?
We said Michael's
And that's why.
to be Michael
Yeah.
is not to be his body and mind.
Yeah.
Naturally, by nature. And then he threw in because he has parts. Okay. He's not one and the same because he's not one. And that's a big jump. That's a big jump. Okay. Michael is not the same as his body and mind because Michael has parts. Now you got to cook that. I mean, is it true? I don't know. Okay, but that's what he said. Okay, Charmeki Chik, he's not a partless one. Okay, Madrup, he doesn't exist as a partless one. Then we say Damadrup. I disagree that Michael doesn't exist as a partless one. He says, the other guy says, and then we say Dertao. No, he doesn't exist as a partless one because he's Chache.
Right. 'Cause he's got parts.
He has parts.
Yeah.
He has parts. Okay.
Is that agreed, though?
Well, say
He
again.
doesn't exist as a partless because he has parts.
Yeah, he doesn't exist as a partless singularity because he has parts.
Right. He's not one.
But that's not the big jump. The last jump was the big one. If he doesn't exist as a partless singularity, he can't be one and the same with his body and mind. That's a stretch.
Yeah.
It implies that there are parts that are not neither the body, neither the mind.
I don't know. I don't know if he's going there. You guys have to sit with this one. I don't think we're going to resolve it.
Did we
In-
get two
Seems really
opponents
straightforward to me.
somewhere? I'm confused about who's saying what.
Mm-hmm. Chokchu Drupala Niki, let's prove 1 is 3.
So we're saying,
And we're going to do that in 2 parts.
Yeah.
We're going to prove that Michael isn't, to be Michael is not to be his body and mind. And then we're going to prove that to be Michael is not to not be his body and mind. Okay?
But he doesn't say dong chik here. He says chik duma dru. Like
No, here he says de dang chik. You see? De dang chik. Yeah, de dang chik.
By the agentive.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
But naturally.
Yeah, but it's not naturally a thing which is one.
That's what he just said.
Parts.
But the jump between what comes before the day and what comes after the day is uncomfortable. Okay, Michael doesn't. To be Michael is not to be his body and mind, because Michael has parts.
Yeah, and a thing which has parts can't be established as being one thing. Right? De, dang, cha,
Yeah,
yi.
no, but that's not what the chick meant in that. The chick meant same as. It didn't mean singular. Okay. He's jumping between the 2 meanings of chick.
I get that. Where does the opponent come in and what is?
Oh, okay. Where's the opponent? Okay. So, Ngachi Chen is spoken by us. Okay. We're trying to prove 1 is 3. The first half of 1 is 3. So, Ngachi Chen is me talking. And then I'm telling to the other guy, look, Michael doesn't exist in his body and mind self-existently. Okay. And then understood between they and Dedang, he said Chiche.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Why do you say that to be Michael is not to be Michael's body and mind automatically? Why do you say that? So in between they and they, he said Chiche, which we always reply to with blah 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 chir. He says Chiche, why so? And we say, 'cause so. Chiche. So we say Dedang Chameki Chiktu Madhubicha. Michael does not exist as something which is his body and mind in a partless way.
Yeah.
Which is one with no
I
parts.
don't think you have this problem if you
And
read
then-
Chik as one.
And then he says, Takamadu?
Then you gotta say this thing which I hate saying Michael is one with his body and mind.
One
One
thing,
thing,
which
yeah.
is a single thing which is. I mean, we're doing Chik to drill, aren't we?
Thing which-
That's not the point of chick here. It's dung chick. It's dung chick. It's an idiom which means to be him is to be his body and mind. He didn't say chick. He said dung chick. Anyway, Dubata.
Say Takamadu?
Then after cheer, he says Damadup. I disagree that if Michael is partless, that if Michael's not a partless thing, he can't be one with his body and mind. And then Chachi in Bichir. And then the guy says Chichir. And then we say Derta because he has parts. Michael does have parts. Now the tricky parts, is Dak Narshin Dubo. This dak, the last dak, because there's many daks here, right? Every time there's a cheer, there's a dak. But the last dak was Michael has parts.
Yeah.
And the guy says again, Tamadu. And we say, come on, Dak Narshin Dubo.
Is the same reason we just gave you above.
But
It was established.
no, before. It could be back 50 pages ago. We don't know. We don't know, okay? I believe it's back when we were discussing parts.
At worst,
But-
yeah.
Yeah, way back, come on, we already talked about that.
That was a whole other school.
Yeah, but
That's true too.
But that school is.
But I can't think of any place else we covered it
Nar.
Ngar before. I can't think of any place else we covered it, you know. It's possible. Maybe you can find a more recent one, but this Ngar is kind of greasy. You know, previously we have covered that. Okay, we got time to do the second one?
Yep, we have 8 minutes.
Oh, cool. Okay. Second part of proving the chokcho, which is 1 equals 3. Okay. First we proved that it's not singular, and now we have to prove that it's not separate, meaning many. Okay, here we go. Nipani. Now he doesn't repeat the chuchen.
Right.
He just says that same chuchen. But what is the chuchen?
Can we just go?
Yeah, me. Here it is. Here. Nga. Nga chuchen. Okay.
Right.
Let's take that same me, Michael. Neither is Michael such that to be Michael is to be separate from his body and mind, which is many. Okay, got it? He's flipping between many and separate.
You said both, I think, right? To be multiple separate things.
To be Michael is not to be separate automatically. Okay, we need that adverb. From his body and mind. Okay, from his body and mind. Because he's not an automatic one. So how can he be automatic many, meaning automatic separate? Yeah, if Michael's not an automatic one, how can you have him plural? How can he be separate from something else? You can't say the table is separate from the computer if the table doesn't exist. Well, everybody's got dharma indigestion.
There's no nor in it, right?
I'm sorry, what?
So
What's that?
you said neither is me such that to be me is separate from.
Oh, that's just the second.
The neither, right?
Yeah, that's just the second. Yeah.
Neither.
Can we look at our original doc again?
This one here?
No, our original doc, the doc that we're
Back here.
Yeah.
Let's take Michael. He doesn't exist automatically in any relationship to his parts, to his body and mind, because he is neither one and the same as the parts, neither is he separate from the parts.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Because he's like a reflection in a mirror. Okay.
By the way, it's Chik Dong, it's not Dong Chik. Oh, Dong Rang Shingi, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Tough, huh? Tough.
Yeah.
The toughness comes from, and you're going to get used to it if you struggle with it. He jumped from the normal one and many, which is like one Michael or more than one Michael, to is Michael one with his body and mind, or is he separate from his body and mind, in which case there's many. Okay.
It seems to be playing with both, though, right? Like even saying
Yeah.
Tade Duma.
Yeah, Tadedu, as being separate.
The
Oh no, that's not Duma.
Oh, that's not Duma?
No, that's Tadedu, comma, Madu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Careful there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
My bad meaning, sorry.
Yeah, be careful there.
Thank you.
Just because Michael isn't a self-existent same as his body and mind doesn't prove that he's not separate from his body and mind. And we say it does, because the only way you can get to many's is to pile up cheeks once. Okay. If Michael's not a single self-existent thing, then Michael can't be separate from another thing, because that would be more than one self-existent thing.
If he is referring to the section where we divided up
Yeah.
everything as absolutely everything having parts, then it would kind of work here, because it would still refer to everything being chachi.
You could say that, yeah.
You know, maybe he means
Yeah.
that.
And now, but it's not a static having parts. It's a theoretical being not part of, which means two things.
Yeah.
So he's jumped from a static parts and wholes to over time or in a relationship.
Right, yeah.
You see what I mean? I'm separate from you, which means we're plural. You see what I mean? That's all. He made that leap. Kabayote, the only way, and this is classic Chitudal, the only way you get to many, and this is Duma, is by Sakpa piling up cheeks. Okay. Where did we have Sakpa in the DCI course yesterday? Yeah, Sakchan, collecting good karma before you meditate. So Duma Chik Sakpa Latene Jog. Good. You must establish many zzzs by relying on piling up onesies. Okay, all right.
They're adorable.
Now, he had one part of his 1 to 3 relationship. Then he had a second part of his 1 to 3 relationship. So don't confuse the Shenyang with the second part. He's going off on a separate subject. Okay, don't confuse it as part of his argument of why, 1 is 3. He still might be proving 1 is 3, but he wants it treated as a separate subject. Okay, so here's another syllogism. Please read Shenyang.
Shenyang. Nga chöche. Pungpo ten du rang shin yi tade tu mete. Pungpo tang dra me dun shen tu me be. Yapte rang shin yi du.
I like your key.
Pungpo tang man dra war lok sum du yugu be te.
Yeah.
Pungpo rak tu be rak le pa ina.
Yeah.
Rang shinki me bar dupe chiro.
Nice. All your readings are getting good. And we'll have to start another language or something. Okay, moreover, ngachichen.
Consider me.
Yeah, or Michael or whatever, to consider Utpala, okay? Pumbatendi Rashiki Tade Mete. She does not, her relationship to her body and mind is not that they are separate. To be her is not to be her body and mind, okay? To her relationship to her body and mind, yeah, and you must say automatically. Because is it her relationship to be such that to be her is not to be her body and mind, or not?
It is her.
If you are Utpala, are you Utpala's body and mind or not?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I would say yes. Okay. Anyway, she's not such that to be her is not to be her body and mind. Tade, okay. Why? Because she's not something which is Delme Dunshen to her body and mind. Say Delme Dunshen. It's an idiom. Okay, Delme Dunshen. You got to read it together fast. Delme Dunshen. Delme Dunshen, which means
Not the other.
totally separate and unrelated. Totally separate and unrelated. Okay, like Trump is Delme Dunshen from intelligence or okay, something like that. So Delme Dunshen means totally separate thing, unconnected. Rimrock and New York or something. Okay, Delme Dunshen. So Delme part means no connection. Dunshen means totally separate things. And it's an idiom, Delme Dunshen. Look, it's just totally different thing, okay? But it's not the case that to be Utpala is not the case that to be Utpala is not to be Utpala's body and mind, because it's not the case that Utpala is Delme Dunshen from her body and mind. It's not the case that she's a totally separate thing, unrelated to her body and mind. Therefore, it's not the case that she's not related to her body and mind. Okay, we got two nots.
Even though they're automatically.
Yeah, and the automatically is going to be important in about 2 minutes. Wah, wah.
2 minutes ago, 1 minute.
Was it really?
Yeah, we're over.
By the way, what comes up next? We'll stop here because it's too long. But we're going to hit on the Rangshingi.
We're gonna hit on
Rangshingi. Now he's going to go for the automatically. What do you mean self-existently? What do you mean automatically? Why do you keep adding the adverb automatically in this discussion? And we're going to hit on it. We're going to explain it, okay? Is to be Utpala to be her body and mind automatically? Is to be Utpala not to be her body and mind automatically? He keeps throwing in automatically. So actually the automatically kills both choices, without my seats. Yeah. We're saying Rangshin Ki by nature, naturally, okay. Rangshin Ki, okay. Stopped here. What's the date today? 8? Okay.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you. It's cool. Buki Joshim Etontam Rira Lingshin Inde Gempadi Sang 心，色那灭谢内chung wei, taba kunyi toba sho. Shogri shmogri. Who's up next?